There's something strange about the way G.I. Joe uses titles. On the battlefield, you'll find medics, scientists, and engineers, but there's not a single doctor among them. Even Carl Greer, a fully qualified medical doctor, is just known as Doc. Now, flip to Cobra, and it's a different story. They've got Dr. Mindbender, Dr. Venom, Dr. Nox, Dr. Biggles-Jones. Even their lesser known operatives proudly carry the doctor title. But why is that? Was this just a coincidence, or was Larry Hama and Marvel sending us subtle messages about how knowledge and authority are used in the G.I. Joe universe? Today, we're going to break down the psychology of titles in G.I. Joe. We'll explore why Cobra loves their doctors and why the Joe team doesn't even need one, and what it says about the world that Hama created. Let's get into it. G'day guys, welcome back to Frostbite's G.I. Joe Repro. As you know, sometimes my mind can wander and we end up getting weird things to talk about. And this video is definitely one of them. Difference between Doc and Doctor, right? Usually wouldn't really matter too much. And I've certainly not thought about it at all until recently when I thought, no, this actually does matter. The context of this thing is phenomenal when you look at how many doctors are on the Cobra side and how many aren't on the Joe side. So yeah, we're going to go through that today and just break it down a little bit, have a bit of fun with it. I can guarantee if you weren't thinking about it in the past, then you will be thinking about it now. It's stuck in my head now. So let's sort of take a quick look into like status and authority of the term doctor. So in the real world where you and I live, hopefully, the title doctor carries some serious weight. So whether you're talking about a medical doctor or someone with a PhD, that title means something. It can signal knowledge, expertise, and authority in their field. And for a lot of people, earning the right to be doctor isn't just about the degree. It's about the respect and validation that comes with it. So have a think about it. You'd walk into a hospital room or a doctor's surgery, and the person introducing themselves as Dr. Smith instantly commands more trust than if they'd said, "Hi, I'm Lenny." And that's not accidental. So that title creates an immediate power dynamic where you're inclined to listen, even if you don't know them personally. They just say they're a doctor, and bam, you're listening. It's the same in academia. Professors often insist on being called doctor because it reflects years of study and a hard won position in a very competitive system. It's more than just a name, it's part of their professional identity. Now, when you bring this over to fiction, titles like doctor start to work as shorthand for intellectual authority. Writers use it to tell the audience that this person knows way more than you do and that they're smarter than the average character in the story. But here's the thing, when someone is defined by their title, it can also create a sense of detachment. It's why you often see villains in comics and movies insisting on being called Doctor. It's not about helping people, it's about reminding you that they're on a different level to you. So this sets up a perfect contrast in G.I. Joe, where Cobra's characters are all about ego and hierarchy, and the Joes are all about teamwork and trust. So what does the title Doctor really mean in terms of power? At its core, it's about knowledge. Doctors in both medicine and academia are experts. They know things that others don't, and that gives them a unique kind of power. In real life, we trust doctors with their health. We listen to their advice because we believe that they have specialized knowledge. That same dynamic exists in other areas. Lawyers with their esquire, judges with your honor, and professors with doctor. But knowledge can be a double-edged sword. In fiction, doctor characters often take that power and twist it. They weaponize their intellect. Instead of using knowledge to help, they use it to dominate. Think about Cobra's Dr. Mindbender. He doesn't use science to heal or create peace. He uses it to make monsters like Serpentor. His doctor's title is a badge of superiority. It's his way of saying, I'm smarter than you, and I'll prove it by playing God. Meanwhile, G.I. Joe doesn't play that game. The heroes value practical skills and trust over intellectual authority. That's why their medic isn't Dr. Greer, he's just Doc. It's not about him showing off his degree, it's about him being approachable on the battleground. Now, if we take a look at it through a military lens, in real world armed forces, titles like doctor are often pushed aside. Even if a medic or a surgeon has a medical doctorate, they're almost always called by their rank or given a nickname. Why? Because in a combat zone, formality gets people killed. As a quick example of this, I remember going in for surgery at one point, and they just before they roll you into the medical surgery, I got to meet my anesthesiologist, and it turns out this dude, because we get rolled in as military patients. Turns out this guy was a Navy reservist, and he loved the fact that I was a military person, and he was going to be doing surgery. Oh no, he's going to sort of be numbing me up, and yeah, just out of habit. Once he told me that he was a military officer, reservist, like my instant reaction was to start calling him sir. I didn't want to call him doctor or anything like that. It was doc or sir, and that was just automatic. Nothing to do with this. So in the field, soldiers need their medic to be one of them, someone they trust, someone they can call for in a crisis without thinking about hierarchy. That's why Doc is such a common nickname for medics and military units. Now, Larry Harmon knew this. He served in Vietnam, and you can see that military realism in his writing. G.I. Joe's Doc isn't some distant academic. He's a soldier first, a medic second, and a doctor third. That's what made him relatable to the Joe team. Contrast that with Cobra, where hierarchy and ego are everything, and their doctors embrace their titles because it sets them apart. It feeds their sense of superiority, and that works perfectly for villains. In short, G.I. Joe says we don't need a doctor, we need Doc. Cobra says our doctors make us untouchable. There's two philosophies in two different words. And finally, let's talk about the storytelling side. In pop culture, the title Doctor has been tied to a very specific archetype for decades now, and that's the mad scientist. Think of Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Doom, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. These are characters whose intellect isolates them from others. They're often portrayed as brilliant but arrogant, and their obsession with knowledge becomes their downfall. G.I. Joe leans into that archetype with Cobra's Dr. Mindbender. Dr. Mindbender, not just being smart, he's flamboyant and ego-driven. Dr. Venom isn't just a scientist, he's manipulative and cruel. These characters represent the danger of intellect divorced from morality. But by contrast, G.I. Joe's medics and engineers never use that title. They're not about ego or intellectual distance. They're about boots on the ground teamwork. And this wasn't an accident. It's a deliberate choice that reinforces the core themes of G.I. Joe. Cobra weaponizes knowledge, while the Joes weaponize trust and camaraderie. Okay, let's take a look at the doctors, and we'll start with the big one, Dr. Mindbender. Now, if you know Cobra, you know this guy. In fact, if you know G.I. Joe in general, you know this guy. The monocle, the bald head, the purple cape with no shirt. He's pretty iconic, and he's Cobra's ultimate mad scientist. But here's the twist. Mindbender didn't even start as a villain. In his original file card, he was an orthodontist, a dentist essentially, who was experimented with brainwave stimulation to reduce pain in his patients. But something went wrong. The experiments fried his brain and turned him into a sadistical, egotistical bastard. Now, as Cobra's chief scientist, Mindbender became the architect of some of Cobra's wildest plans. He used the shit out of that brainwave scanner. He cloned history's greatest leaders to build Serpentor. And he never stopped believing his intellect made him superior to everyone else, even Cobra Commander. And that's where the title Doctor becomes crucial when we talk about it with all of these members of Cobra. For Mindbender, it's not just an academic achievement, it's his identity. It gives him a sense of superiority, a justification for the terrible things that he does. He's not just a scientist, he's the scientist. Now, in the cartoons, Mindbender was over the top, but still dangerous. We saw his first appearance in the cartoons in the classic Pyramid of Darkness in September of 1985, where he appears as Cobra's chief scientist and a key architect in Cobra's plan to deactivate the Joe satellite defense network. This is where we first saw a cartoon version of the flamboyant, monocle wearing mad scientist that we all know, complete with his signature purple cape and bare chest. This cartoon appearance actually predates his first comic appearance in 1986 and also his 1986 toy release, which is pretty common with Sunbow since they often used Hasbro prototypes early. Now, in the comics, Larry Hama made him more sinister. He wasn't just playing with science, he was playing with people's lives. We first saw him in G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero number 44, where he was introduced as Dr. Brainwave before the name Mindbender caught on, and away we went. Mindbender became Cobra's primary science officer after his predecessor Dr. Venom was killed in action. He creates the bats and also makes several modifications to Venom's prize creation, the Brainwave scanner. Mindbender also creates Serpentor in an attempt to engineer the ultimate soldier. He and other Cobra agents raid the tombs of noted military leaders such as Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great for DNA, also taking the opportunity to add in just a little smidgen of Storm Shadow. Mindbender loyally serves Serpentor until a civil war between Serpentor and Fred 7 breaks out on Cobra Island. When Serpentor is killed by Zartan, Mindbender switches sides, becoming an advisor to Fred 7. But even then, he was not loyal, listening to a plan that would seemingly allow Cobra Commander to be cloned. Eventually, the original non-clone Cobra Commander returns, and threw all perceived traitors, including Mindbender, into a landlocked freighter on Cobra Island. Now, if you want to hear more about that, go back and check out my video that I did on it. It was a lot of fun, and it taught me a lot of things that I'd forgotten about that crucial event. So even though Mindbender managed to preserve Serpentor's body, which was thought by many to be destroyed, he was then locked into the freighter, which was buried inside a mountain. And although an escape plan was devised, and some of the trapped people did escape, Mindbender, along with some of the other traitors, died of botulism before it could be enacted. At the time, it seemed like that was the end of Mindbender, trapped underground with no escape. But he didn't stay dead. And in G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero number 143, Mindbender returns alive after being cloned from his own DNA. This plotline was fantastic, and it fit perfectly with his obsession with cloning. The clone retained his memories and personality, making him essentially the same Dr. Mindbender, which led to fan debates over whether it actually counted as his death or not. On to our next Doctor, Dr. Venom, the original Cobra scientist. Now, before Mindbender come along, Cobra already had a scientist, Dr. Venom. And make no mistake, this guy is as cold and calculating as they come. Dr. Venom appeared in the early Marvel comics, but he was introduced in issue number 10 as Cobra's chief scientist and immediately proved himself to be ruthless. He created the brainwave scanner. Yep, the same mind control device that later became one of Cobra's signature tools. But what makes Venom so fascinating is his personality. He wasn't flamboyant like Mindbender. He was quiet, cruel, and absolutely manipulative. He tortured prisoners, double-crossed his allies, and showed no remorse. He's the kind of villain who scares you because he's actually plausible. And again, the title Doctor is key here. It gives Venom an air of credibility, even as he does horrific things. It creates this disturbing contrast. He's a man of science who uses his knowledge for evil, and that's the Cobra way. Dr. Venom's legacy is huge. Without him, there'd be no brainwave scanner, no foundation for Cobra's high-tech operations. He set the tone for every Cobra doctor that followed him. We saw him later die in issue 19 after an epic battle with the Joes. He finds himself in a verbal battle with Quinn and shoots him in the back, only for Quinn to roll out a grenade which kills Dr. Venom. In issue number 22, we saw him buried in an unmarked grave in Potter's Field. Our third Doctor is Dr. Nox, or known as the Battlefield Frankenstein. She never appeared in the original toy line or cartoon, but she's left a massive mark in the comics. Introduced in the Devil's Due era, Dr. Nox is Cobra's battlefield surgeon and cybernetics expert. She specializes in taking wounded Cobra soldiers and turning them into something less human. Think about bats, but more terrifying. And what makes Nox more interesting is her duality. She's not completely evil. She genuinely believes her work is helping Cobra soldiers survive. But the way she strips them of their humanity is chilling. She's a classic example of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And just like the others, the title Doctor matters here. It gives her work legitimacy in Cobra's eyes, even as she crosses ethical lines that no real Doctor ever should. Nox had her first comic appearance in comic number 153, where she's responsible for creating a new deadlier type of bat, which she sends out to hunt down Scarlet. In the end, Scarlet takes the bat down and carries on with a holiday. Dr. Nox continued to appear in the Devil's Due and IDW franchises of comics, and as far as I know, she hasn't died yet. But let me know in the comments if I've got that wrong. Now, finally, our fourth Doctor, the double agent scientist, Dr. Sydney Biggles-Jones, a character with one of the most unique stories in all of G.I. Joe. She first appeared in issue number 135 as a civilian scientist recruited by Cobra to develop railgun technology. But here's the twist. She was secretly a double agent working for the US government. And unlike Mindbender or Venom, Biggles-Jones wasn't evil. She was pragmatic, playing both sides to achieve her goals. And that alone makes her stand out. But her title, Doctor, still plays a role. Even as a double agent, it gives her an instant credibility and respect in the Cobra ranks. And it allowed her to move around and operate in spaces where ordinary soldiers couldn't. She proves that every Cobra Doctor is, or not every Cobra Doctor, is a villain. But even she used her intellect as a weapon when she needed to. Now, her death, we haven't seen that. So I would say it hasn't been confirmed. Apart from her name being listed as terminated by Cobra in a raid on the coffin, where she was held by Tomax and Cobra in the Devil's Due comics. Storm Shadow later explains that Tomax was able to eliminate those that Cobra considered loose ends. So all we've seen is a name on a list. We haven't seen it actually happen. Now, we've spent time looking at Cobra's doctors, Mindbender, Venom, Nox, and Biggles-Jones, and how their titles feed into their arrogance, their ego, and their distance from the people around them. But now let's turn to the Joe team and ask, why don't they have any doctors? And the answer lies in one man, Carl Greer, codenamed Doc. Here's the thing about Doc. He's a real doctor. He's fully qualified with a medical degree, trained as a combat medic, and easily one of the most skilled members of the Joe team. But nobody ever calls him Dr. Greer. He's just Doc. He never needed a title to command respect. He earned it through his actions and not just status given to him by a title. In the G.I. Joe comic series, he first appeared in Real American Hero number 11, where he saves 3 other Joes from Destro with a well-aimed snowball, saying he was unable to carry a weapon due to the Geneva Convention. He loses to the man in a fistfight, but manages to secure the antidote needed for several ill Joes. And furthermore, he faces down an armed squad of Cobra soldiers, tricking them into believing they were also sick and trading the antidote for the plutonium that Cobra had taken. Now, what the Cobra personnel inject into themselves is really just a tetanus booster shot. In one of the saddest deaths ever, Doc was brutally slain by the Saw Viper in issue 109 of Real American Hero. Now, compare that information I've just given to you about Doc to that of Cobra scientists. Mindbender uses his title as a symbol of power. Venom uses it to justify his cruelty. And even Dr. Biggles-Jones leveraged hers for access and influence. But Doc doesn't care about the titles. He's not about authority or ego. He's about saving lives. And that difference isn't just about personality, it's philosophical. It reflects the core values of G.I. Joe. In G.I. Joe, the difference between Doctor and Doc isn't just the name, it's a statement about values. Larry Hama and Marvel didn't just write these differences, they designed them. That's why, even just decades later, these characters still resonate with us. So what does it all mean? Why are all the Doctors and G.I. Joe villains, while the heroes avoid the title completely? It's all about the weaponizing of the knowledge. The Cobra Doctors used their titles to give them authority and prestige, but it also isolated them. It's one of those weird things. Like, there's only one Doctor at a time, right? That's why we're going through a list of 4 because they appeared one after each other. It's weird. And it was the reason why I wanted to talk to you about this today. For Cobra, the word Doctor is about power. It's about ego. It's about standing above everyone else, even their own allies. And maybe that's the real message here. In a fight for freedom, titles just don't matter. Trust does. Teamwork does. And that's why G.I. Joe's medic wasn't a doctor. He was Doc. Because on the battlefield, you don't need authority. You need someone who can cover your back. So my question for you, would G.I. Joe ever work if they had a doctor on their team? Or does Doc just say it all? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video today and you're not currently subscribed to the channel, hit that sub button because this is the kind of content that I do. So until next time, thanks for watching and stay frosty. Bye-bye.